Hey guys, Kim Klinkenbeard here, and I thought I would share with y'all a quick, easy, complete supper that we do. So it's a crazy busy day. I just got through with clients and I had my horse riding lessons today, so hence the outfit, and I had nothing prepared, so I pulled stuff out that I keep in my pantry all the time. I'm going to show you all my tips and tricks, and I didn't have any meat thawed, so this is why I'm using what I'm using. So I'm going to show you guys how I did this while my noodles are cooking. I start off, season and flavor your broth. Do not cook your noodles in just plain water. You're wasting precious opportunity to flavor your dish, and if you flavor it properly, you don't need as much oil and creams and sauces and cheeses and all that kind of stuff. So flavor reduces calories, and reducing calories makes everything healthier. So I do use the Organics bone broth, and I use about a cup of it. This can be expensive, so I'm going to use about a cup of the bone broth and then the rest water, and then I season it as well. And the reason I'm using the bone broth is because 1 cup has 9 grams of protein. So not only am I seasoning my noodles, but I'm also adding a little bit of protein as well. And then the noodles I'm using aren't just regular old noodles. I am using the Barilla protein noodles. So per serving, these have 10 grams of protein per serving. So you're getting your protein as well as your other, your starches and your veggies and all of that, because we're gonna put this together here in a minute. You're getting your protein without having to add meat. So this is great for vegetarians, but also it's great when you're doing a meatless meal or you just don't have any meat, right? It's either not thawed out or you don't have any. But sometimes I will also use, there's a great turkey sausage, and I'll share a picture of that in another video sometime. There's a great turkey sausage and a chicken sausage that I use as well, and I'll just chop that up and throw it in this dish too. So while the noodles cook, I add the broth, the water, and then I also add kosher salt, and it doesn't matter how much because you're gonna drain this out, okay? So a nice, 2 nice big pinches of kosher salt, black pepper, and then garlic powder. So just granulated garlic powder, not garlic salt, and season your water with that, okay? And your broth. And then you cook your noodles. It usually takes about 9 minutes to cook noodles to perfection. So set your timer for 9 minutes, and in the meantime, I always stick a wooden spoon in mine, and it keeps it from boiling over. And you can see that my noodles are getting nice and cooked here, and they're almost ready. So in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is chop up some tomatoes. So I always buy sweet little tomatoes on the vine. 2 reasons. 1, they're sweeter, and 2, if you keep them on the vine like this, they last longer. And these, I do have a fresh pack because I made some appetizers for a party, but these are a little wrinkly looking, and they are perfect for this dish. Nothing's wrong with them. They're just sweeter because they're starting to dry out just a little bit, and it makes them even sweeter. So I use up my almost wrinkled up, almost gone tomatoes in this dish. It's a great place to use it. Soups are another great place to use this, or salsas or something like that. But it's a great time to use these, and then I just cut them in half just like so, and I can start doing that while my noodles are cooking, and it should take you about 10 minutes, right? While your noodles cook, you do all this other prep work. So I cut them in half and I set them aside, and then I'm going to, I might cut up a couple more, I don't know. I kind of eyeball how many, just make it look right, And then I've got fresh basil. Again, I made an appetizer, my caprese appetizer bites, and that recipe is a video I did for y'all. It's also in my cookbook. So if you want that, raise your hand in the comments and I'll tag you in that video. It's super simple to make, and it's really pretty and elegant. It makes a great, beautiful little appetizer, especially this time of year because it's red and green and white, so it's really pretty. But I have fresh basil. If I don't have fresh basil on hand, then I just use dried. But here's the ratio. Dried basil is a lot stronger than fresh basil. All your dried herbs are stronger than your fresh, so you're going to use more fresh than dried. So just keep that in mind. So the recipe calls for a tablespoon of fresh, and you put a tablespoon of dried in there, it's going to be really strong. So make sure you reduce that just a little bit. So I am going to take my basil, and you don't ever cut basil. It bruises it and makes it turn brown. So when you're preparing your basil, you always want to just rip it, and you just tear it into the size that you want, just like so. And you just tear it all up. And I am just going to, I think you guys can see this. I'm just gonna tear up my basil and just let it come right on top of my tomatoes here. And again, I'm just gonna continue to do this while my noodles are cooking. And this is an easy thing for kids to do because there's no knives involved in the basil part, so you can totally have your kids get into this, and they like tearing stuff up anyway, so why not make it productive and let them tear up basil. Basil is something you do not want to use the stems. Cilantro, on the other hand, the stems are edible, so if you're using cilantro, you can chop cilantro with a knife. Cilantro, mint, oregano, thyme, those things are, rosemary, those are a little bit hardier, but basil is super fragile. So if you do chop it with a knife, and there's instances where you would want a fine julienne with the basil with a knife, and that would be appropriate, but usually if you can just tear it, then it doesn't bruise, and like, see, you can see here it stays nice and green, and it doesn't get all brown and bruised. So I will just continue to tear some of these up, and this, you know, doesn't take long. All right, so I'm gonna drain my noodles and move you guys at the same time, hopefully just a little bit, where you can see my workstation and what is coming next. Whoops. And I'm going to show you guys what I dress this all with as well. So I don't need my spoon any longer. I'm going to drain my noodles really quickly. It shouldn't take 2 seconds, and you don't rinse your noodles. All right, so you don't want to rinse your noodles because then you rinse off the starch that kind of keeps everything happy and lively and thick, especially if you're going to make a sauce with it. If you're going to use a sauce, you definitely don't want to rinse the noodles because the starch of the noodle is what helps thicken the sauce. But for this, we also seasoned them, so we don't want to rinse all of the seasoning off either. So instead, we're just going to put it in the colander. I'll stick it back on top of the pot and let it continue to drain just a little bit. And now I've got my bowl here, and I'm going to just make sure any of the remaining water is out of it. And you can see here the seasonings are still on the noodles. So at this point, I'm just going to put those right here in the bowl, and I will move this out of my way really quickly for y'all. All right, so now we are going to start seasoning this stuff. And I am going to go ahead and add the tomatoes straight in with the pasta. And I would do the same if I was using any kind of meat or any other vegetables. This is where they all go in, okay? And if I feel like it doesn't look quite right and I need to add a few more tomatoes or a little bit more basil to make the proportions right, because we don't want just all noodles, then I'm going to chop up just a couple more tomatoes and toss them in there as well. But at this point, we need to season it. So we are going to use some kosher salt, and I like to eyeball this, and I know my pinch is about 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, so you want That's about a teaspoon and a half. And then I am going to use this squeezed minced garlic. This is super handy to have on hand. I don't have any fresh garlic cloves, but even if I did, I don't want to be mincing fresh garlic. This needs to be quick, right? We're all starving to death, so we need to eat. And I'm eyeballing it. But about half a teaspoon is equivalent to a clove. And I think it says so on here somewhere. But again, we like garlic, so I'm going to eyeball it. But for this dish, I would say if you love garlic, do, I don't know, 2 to 3 teaspoons, which is 1 tablespoon of garlic, and mix it around. And if you like a little less, add it by the teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, taste it, add a little bit more. You can always add more, but it's really hard to take away, like impossible, just so you know. So I'm gonna add a little squeezy of this garlic in here. And now I'm going to put in my cracked black pepper. Lots of nutrients in the black pepper if you crack it. So fresh cracked black pepper and chicken broth is what helps heal the colds, right? So it's not just peppered chicken broth, it's not just chicken noodle soup, it's cracked black pepper with the chicken broth. The chemicals react, and that's what helps boost your immune system and your absorption of vitamin C and all of those healthy things. So if you're under the weather, that's the trick. Cracked black pepper and chicken broth, okay? All right, so we like a lot of pepper, so we're gonna add it that way. And then I'm also going to add crushed red pepper, because again, we like this. But you know, you could add even pickled jalapenos to this. Of course, drain the juice and just add some pickled jalapenos. That would be super yummy. Or even the green chilies. If you've got some hatch green chilies, roasted green chilies, those would be yummy too. But we like it pretty spicy, so I am going to add some fresh cracked pepper. And now I'm going to grab my tongs as well and add a little bit of olive oil. Now, remember my rules for olive oil. 1 tablespoon, let me show you. $120 calories for that. Pepper got me. So, you want to be really mindful of how much oil you use. Just enough to keep the noodles from sticking together. Now, that's about 2 tablespoons. Okay, and again, you want it just enough to coat so that your noodles don't stick together, and that it adds a little bit of flavor and a little bit of substance to your meal. So fat is good for you, but not in excess. Okay, so too much fat, too many calories. I don't care if it's healthy, it's the same amount of calories. So olive oil, Crisco, avocados, it doesn't matter what kind of oil, it's all 120 calories per tablespoon. So yes, while it may be a little bit heart healthy, adding too much of it will add pounds, and being overweight is more unhealthy than the health benefit of the oil. There's a lot better ways to get your nutrition from fat than oil, okay? So the most bang for your buck. But I really do like this particular olive oil. It's the Texas brand from H-E-B. It's called Family Grown, and you're looking for cold pressed extra virgin olive oil. And this one is the first cold press. It says it right on the label. So that's what you're looking for, and you're looking for it in a dark bottle. A light bottle, it will spoil quicker. So a dark bottle is a good sign that you're getting a good olive oil. Not necessarily the price, but the dark bottle. And you want cold pressed, first pressed if possible, extra virgin. And this one tastes really yummy. So especially if you're using it, I only use olive oil in like this kind of situation. I don't cook with it ever. So I use it in this situation because it's very flavorful and it's not gonna burn and go rancid, okay? So I do use a little bit, again, just enough to add a little bit of nutrition and a little bit of flavor with the fewest amount of calories, and serves a purpose of helping the noodles stay separated and not become just a big clump, okay? So this is your finished dish, and we will serve it with a salad. And if you wanted to add some Parmesan cheese to this, you certainly can. We don't, but you could do the mozzarella balls and half those and toss in here as well, or add some Parmesan cheese. That would be super yummy. And again, you could add chopped chicken or shrimp or chopped sausage, and that would be really yummy too. But because the pasta has protein in it, it is going to up our protein and count towards our protein for the meal, and we can just eat this and not have to worry about having a meat. So it's a great, quick, easy go-to that's a complete meal. We'll give you your protein and your carb, and we'll have a side salad to add our veggies, and we're good to go. Hopefully, guys, this gave you a quick and easy idea for supper when you don't have anything prepared. And keep these things in your pantry. And if you have questions, raise your hand and I will be happy to answer those. And I'll post pictures of the brands of the stuff in this video in the comments. So thank you guys for watching. Like and share for me. Bye.